So a couple of days ago, a friend of mine who happens to be a lesbian put up a deeply Hinduphobic story. I asked her the reason behind her Hinduphobic stance, and I was surprised by the fact that she believed Hinduism is a tool for oppression. It's not just her, right? I'm sure you must have seen this narrative floating on social media and pop culture all the time. So much so that instances of anti-Hindu slogans raised openly in pride parades have become very common in India. People are casually seen holding placards villainizing Hinduism and chanting slogans against the Manusmriti. Not having even an iota of knowledge of what lies in it. Now all of that defies logic. You know why? Because of all the major faith systems, Abrahamic or otherwise, Hinduism and most of the Indic belief systems not just recognize but embrace all sexualities, orientations and genders. And there's enough textual evidence to support this claim. So my friend, being a member of the LGBT community, should be really happy about it, isn't it? Well, it's not that simple. Because the irony of the situation is, modern Indian youth is completely divorced with the knowledge of scriptural texts. So it's not their fault to not know what lies in there. And on top of it, there's a whole machinery of disinformation which says the otherwise. Well, I couldn't convince my friend on this, but I hope these examples from the Hindu pantheon, mythology, and revered texts can burst the myth that Hinduism sanctions some sort of homophobia. I can bet most of you would not be aware of the Hijra goddess Bahuchara Mata. Bahuchara Mata in Hinduism is associated with fertility and is primarily worshipped by the transgender community. Her temple is located in Bicharji town in the district of Mehsana, Gujarat. There are interesting folklores and myths surrounding this deity, and we might discuss them in the future. But I've dropped the links in the description in case you wish to read her legends and research more about this deity. Next is the reference and mention of Tritiya Prakriti in the Puranas, and this is really interesting. And there is terrific literature on this subject. A book called Tritiya Prakriti, People of the Third Sex, Understanding Homosexuality, Transgender Identity, and Intersex Conditions Through Hinduism by Amara Das Wilhelm, explores the Hindu philosophy's understanding and treatment of queerness based entirely upon Sanskrit references from ancient Vedic texts. The book guides us through the original Hindu concept of third sex and how such people were constructively incorporated into the ancient Bharatiya society, and how foreign influence eventually eroded away that noble system.
From the evidence that we have, the evidence of absence, it looks like homosexuality was treated with basically indifference. It didn't matter. We do know that transsexuals have had a long history in India. In the Mahabharata, there was this person called Shikhandi, who was born a boy but was a girl, or the other way around. I'm not really sure right now, but it's one of the two things. So this was a transgender person, a great warrior, right? And a person of great importance.
Another interesting example is the little known story of Hans and Dimbak, the alleged gay generals of Jarasandh in Mahabharata. According to several interpretations, these are considered as a same-sex couple. Now, their story serves as an example and gives us an opportunity to explore the acceptance of non-heteronormative relationships in the ancient Hindu society. So the case that I'm making here is, it makes no sense to demonize a philosophy which has always been so inclusive and which epitomizes the liberal thought, by the way. Now someone needs to be really unread or ignorant, or I dare say even malicious, to claim that Hinduism in principle sanctions some sort of a phobia, let alone homophobia. I agree that societies can be corrupt, institutions can be corrupt, but how do you put the onus of that on Hindu philosophy? As a Hindu, I'm all for criticism and reforms, but that criticism should be well informed. You can't make claims out of thin air and be a self-proclaimed expert to disparage a centuries-old philosophy without having read a single text on it. It feels like displeasure towards the current dispensation somehow manifests as anti-Hindu sentiments. What do you think about it?